Jerusalem Talks ND is brought to you by the Academic Center of the University of Notre Dame in Jerusalem.
My name is Daniel Schwanke, and I'm the Executive Director of the University of Notre Dame's Academic Center in Jerusalem. In this second season of Jerusalem Talks ND, we want to explore Catholic perspectives on the Holy Land. As Notre Dame's representatives in Jerusalem, we often grapple with what it means to be a university defined by its Catholic character within our local and regional context. Why does the Holy Land matter to Catholics? What do Catholics abroad know about Christian communities who live in this land? How should that inform conversations about this place at a theological, social, and political level? The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has made these questions more relevant, which becomes evident in situations like today, not only for those of us who call the Holy Land their home, but also for millions worldwide. To illuminate some of these questions, we asked Professor Avraham Burg, a faculty member at our center, to embark on an investigative journey that tries to give voice to the diverse Catholic community in the Holy Land. In this episode, our guest is Father Anthony Giambrone, who serves as Vice Director of the École Biblique, a research institute for biblical and archaeological studies in Jerusalem. Father Giambrone earned his PhD at Notre Dame and serves as a faculty member at the university's academic center in Jerusalem.
Peace on you, Father Anthony.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Father Anthony Giambrone, how do you pronounce it? It's
Giambrone.
Italian,
It is Sicilian.
but you're so American.
Yes.
So how you say it again?
Giambrone.
And there is a meaning to the word?
That's disputed. It's somewhere between Big John and giant shrimp.
Oh, and you are Big John.
I think so.
I take it, okay. You are the Vice Director of the French School, of the Biblical and Archaeological French School in Jerusalem.
That's right.
We are both professors at the Notre Dame in Tantur in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And you are actually part of the city of Jerusalem landscape, right?
That's right.
I mean, you walk the city, you visit it, you frequent it, and now we are in Rome.
Yep.
So is Rome part of Jerusalem? Is Jerusalem abroad?
There's a mystical link between the two that goes way back.
So let's explore it a little bit later. But tell us a little bit about you. You're, as we said, American.
Right.
Who is a Jerusalemite?
Right.
How do you move from place to place?
It's a surprise. So I'm a Dominican priest, and I belong to the Order of Preachers, which is similar to the Franciscans, who are better known in Jerusalem, but the Dominicans are kind of the ugly stepchild of the family. And we actually arrived, the Dominicans were there in the 13th century, disappeared with the Crusader states and came back on the last wave of French colonialism. So I live in a priory that was founded at the end of the 19th century at the site of the Byzantine Basilica of St. Stephen, right outside the old city. So that's where I live, and that's where the École Biblique, our research institute, is located.
And when you are with yourself, you are Jerusalemite, you're American, you are third dimension, 3D, i.e. Christian.
Yeah,
What are you?
Jerusalem has a way to make easy questions like your identity complicated. So I mean, I'm kind of a double expat because I'm an American living with Frenchmen living abroad. So I'm in a strange little, really very international island, but they're close to the old city. When Americans visit, I'm a resident of Jerusalem. That's a kind of interesting aspect, obviously, and I end up, like a lot of people, serving as a native guide when people come through. So to that extent, but in other company, I'm an American. Certainly for the French, I'm an American.
That's for sure. I mean, they exclude everybody who is not them, right?
Right.
C'est vrai, ça marche comme ça avec eux.
C'est ça.
To Jerusalems.
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem from afar. Mm-hmm. When you were a child, when you went to church at home, when you studied, you were not there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And now you are within the digestion system of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
What are the two Jerusalem? Jerusalem from afar and Jerusalem which is close up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, for me, it was so far that it was. I mean, beyond the horizon, I'd say. I mean, it wasn't something highly present to me. It's in the stories. You know, you read the Christmas stories and these sorts of things. I suppose the first thing that I think it impacts a lot of people when they come, certainly Christian pilgrims, is the scale. One imagines something enormous. Certainly, Americans have notions of these kind of endless plains, and you come, and it's a very small country. It takes time. I mean, it takes a lifetime to acclimate to that. But ultimately, I experience it as something on a very human scale. I mean, this is already getting into the kind of spirituality of it. But when I lead visitors around or pilgrims around, I tell them, you come to Jerusalem to experience the humanity of Jesus, not his divinity. So it's a very raw.
Explain to me the difference.
I think people come to Jerusalem expecting rapturous experiences of prayer and a kind of immediate contact with the divine.
Being elevated by themselves to.
They're going to float away.
The next level.
Yeah, and I mean this is part of the mystery of the Christian faith. Is, I mean, this immanence of the divine in the human, in the incarnation. But what we experience is Jesus' humanity, and we experience our humanity in that.
Humanity in the sense, here Jesus walked.
Here Jesus
climbed the mountain, descended the Mount of Olives, crucified, ate the Last Supper.
Yeah, certainly all of that. I mean, it's the theater of his life, and you know these things from afar. But as I say, it confronts you with raw humanity in a different way too. I mean, in good ways and in bad ways. But
is there a level of disappointment when you come from the city of dream like Jerusalem, the La La Land Jerusalem, or to the small places you describe? And between us, it's not even a small neighborhood in wherever it is, because any other metropolitan.
Yeah.
And isn't it disappointing? I mean, big dreams, small reality.
It can be. I mean, it depends what one comes to the place looking for. That's, I think, why it's kind of important to calibrate our idealizations about it. I mean, there's an important way in which the ideal of Jerusalem is also important for humanity, I think, and that plays a role.
Explain. You say something which is clear to you, and I'm not at all sure it's clear to me, at least.
Right. Well, if I keep it mystifying, it sounds better. I mean, I think that tension between the ideal city, the heavenly Jerusalem, the Jerusalem above. I mean, in the New Testament, I mean, this is already very developed. I mean, it's in the prophets too. There's a kind of idealization of the rebuilt Jerusalem, and I think that belongs to, I mean, a need of our humanity to live in this eschatological hope, really.
And to have something transcendental, which is beyond us.
Yeah.
It's not physical, it's not...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, thank goodness the earthly Jerusalem isn't the heavenly Jerusalem. I mean, if it was just this encounter with our raw humanity, with all its foibles, all its dysfunction, it would be crushing. So to live that tension in a very acute way in that particular place is one of the things that makes it such a spiritually invigorating site.
So tell me about your calibration. I use your term. Where are you from in the States?
I'm from the Midwest. So from the Midwest to the Mideast, it's a change.
Yeah. It is a change.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Vast land to a very narrow bottleneck. But you come and you see this city.
Mm-hmm.
Here Jesus walked, here he prayed, here he turned over the table, here he was crucified, and it's all, 5 meters away from each other, the Holy Basin, or what? What happens to the individual, then Anthony, not yet Father Anthony, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Who comes in and what calibrates you?
Yeah.
Give me an experience there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you hinted at already this need for transcendence. I mean, do I find my transcendence in a vast Midwestern prairie? I mean, you can experience God in this way through nature. I mean, the majesty of the mountains, it's beautiful. This is actually another thing that surprises me a lot is I think Americans have a very easy natural connection with nature, and there's a curious inability for me to connect with nature in Israel. There are places where it's beautiful, but I can never get out of the hearing of a highway. I can only if I look in this little corner can I avoid looking at the power lines. I'm never just lost, like bathed in nature. It's too small, and everything has been built up. And you'd even wonder, like the ecological movement or something would be more pronounced in a place with a spirituality about the land, but that way of access isn't there. And so to find a channel to the transcendent has to go by another route.
So the space goes inward.
Yeah,
Instead of outward, outbound, space out.
Yeah,
you look inside.
Yeah, in some ways, though, I mean, you can't escape these inputs from the outside too. That's part of what's grading and stimulating about the place is there's so many sense impressions. I mean, from people, but from the history itself. I mean, the stones cry out, right? There's a way in which everything that I'd rather not see is also saying something. And so I think that's just, it's kind of, changing the channel. You attune yourself to a different voice, a different way in which the divine speaks to humanity. And
here now you're in Rome.
Yeah.
I take it exploring your field of expertise, which is exploring the New Testament.
Right.
There is a competition between these two holy cities. There is a completion and a competition.
Yeah.
Can you make for me a table of one versus the other?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's something very archetypal about the two places, and the fusion of the two is one of these creative tensions that's, I think, very much at work in the Christian experience. I mean, one of the texts I work with a lot is the Acts of the Apostles, which is built between these two poles, between this movement between Jerusalem and Rome. I mean, one of the things that archetypes get you into stereotypes very quickly, but I mean, to be pedagogical or catechetical about it, I mean, an essential element that Rome brings in is the universal, is the imperial, is the endless. I mean, this we have at the beginning of the Aeneid. I shall give you rule without end. The notion of bringing all of humanity together, in this case, in a kind of polity, a political family, under the Pater Patriae Augustus or whoever it is. I mean, that aspiration also belongs to humanity. There's this entire Greco-Roman heritage, that infusion with the biblical tradition, in contact with the biblical tradition, and let's say the smallness, the particularity, the circumscribed character of Israel, and that particular channel of access to God. It's in that contact, the catalyst that comes between the confrontation of those two that somehow gives you the alchemy of Christianity.
So we have vast Midwest, not very inspirational, beautiful, handsome, generous, very natural. It's the creation at its best, but not really inspirational.
Right.
Then we have Rome, which is a former empire by itself, and the grandeur of the empire is around every corner. Mm-hmm. And you say, wow, this is it. This encompasses both the plurality of the ancient times and the actuality of today. And then you have Jerusalem, which is small and tiny and nucleus, and it's a hot place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for everybody. Rome, everybody can find a place in Rome. Not sure everybody can find a place in Jerusalem.
But everyone should. I mean, that's a beautiful thing in the Psalms. This sense that it's the mother city of all, and I mean the particularity this human scale of it is an immense part of its attraction. I mean that Jerusalem. I mean, Rome is too easy. The glory of it all, for a Catholic, for a Christian too, it's too glorious. I mean, it would go way out of whack if this is all that we saw. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a triumph and a grandeur that's a dream if it's not held in check. And so, I mean, there's this balance, like I say, this kind of
So a
confluence.
good believer should have yin and yang, Jerusalem, Rome, in order to balance in between.
Something like that. I mean, we're drawing in large strokes here, but yeah, I mean, there's something like that. I mean, you can flip this too. There's ways in which the humanity is exposed. I mean, what to say? I mean, the worst of humanity is also on display in the history of Rome. That's a horrible thing. There's ways in which, I mean, the tyranny of empire is all exposed. But that's where the dignity of the individual, the particular, I mean, if you want to take it in the direction of human dignity, I mean, that's a major ethical corollary of the incarnation. But that's this essential element. You can't have it's Dostoevsky who loves humanity but not humans. So you can't do one without the other.
Okay, let's travel a little bit between a tale of two cities. Okay, let's travel between the two. You come from a place in which the majority of people are Christians. This kind of Christian, the other kind of Christian, but Christianity is saturated into everything. Sunday is a day off. Bells are ringing. Crosses on the national flags, and God Bless America is a certain God rather than a different alternative of gods. You live in a majority, and all of a sudden you come to small Jerusalem, and you are a tiny minority. What happens in this transformation from the lands of majority to the place of a minority?
It's a wonderful experience, I have to say. There's a diachronic depth dimension that opens up in places like Rome and Jerusalem too, but you experience the present through a filter of history. And I mean, one of the things that you experience as the present in Jerusalem is the fact that the church isn't always this triumphant church of St. Peter's in the Vatican. In fact, it's critical, it's essential that in its seminal moment, it's not born in that state. And so I think this I like a lot. I mean, just if you would contrast the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and St. Peter's. St. Peter's is just too good to be true, and the Holy Sepulchre is battle scarred.
Let's explain. You walk to St. Peter, the harmony, the basilica, the art, the silence, the respect of everybody, including the gendarmerie, who are part of the system. It's beautiful. You go to the Holy Sepulchre, everybody fighting everybody else. The Ethiopians are fighting the Franciscans, or fighting
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. I mean, the first time I went there, this is what
you meant, right?
This is exactly what I mean. The first time I went there, before I'm Father Anthony, I went in and was on the verge of a pious thought, almost formulating a prayer, and a Syrian deacon elbowed me in the head, intentionally. I mean, because I was in his way. I don't know. It's just what's going to happen there. But I mean, the church itself is mangled. It bears the scars of the entire history of Christianity, which is not always a Christianity that is, a dominant culture. And so that relativizes the experience, where you can very, very easily mistake Christianity for a state or a political system. Or even a particular culture. And so it pulls you out of that and puts back in perspective something about the essence of what your faith actually is. So it's a very, very important experience to have.
My feeling is, when I take your illustration of the Holy Sepulchre as the battlefield of everybody, since the place is so small, there is no room for everybody. So everybody fights for the little square centimeter. And the best illustration is the ladder at the second floor of the Holy Sepulchre.
Right.
What is it?
Yeah. I mean,
the status quo of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the status quo of absurdity in a way. I mean, it's this kind of limit case of dysfunction. That you can't touch or move this thing. Who knows why? Because
there is a ladder left there at the time in which they had to give food to the people confined at the second floor. Now you cannot touch it because the ladder became holy.
Right.
So it's sanctification of the status quo rather than of the dialogue to resolve it.
Right. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I want to push a little bit more the envelopes of the Jerusalemite dimension. Told me Elias Houri, the famous Lebanese author, and I hope they will come and another Arab writer in Arabic will have the Nobel Prize for Literature, and will be Elias, who is a fantastic writer. And he told me, Avrum, the tragedy of the Middle East is that in 48, the Arab society got emptied of its the Jewish as the other. And now in the last decade and a half, ISIS and on, it gets empty of its Christian other. And the Middle East is not the same Middle East since the Crusades and the Kingdom of Jerusalem you described earlier, etc. Christianity is shrinking in the region. Looks like in Jerusalem and in Israel, which is the state of the Jews, Christianity holds. Isn't it a kind of an historic absurd?
I don't know. I mean, there's a tenacity there that's unique. Obviously, I mean, the Middle East is a big region, but the roots hold because they go deep. The presence in the Christian presence, let's say the native Christian presence in Israel is obviously imperiled. Let's say, I mean, it's not in a state of robust confidence. There's threats from a lot of different directions. I mean, it's a funny church in a lot of ways because it's also a very international church. So I mean, I'm not a native there, but I belong to the local church, and I mean, the foreigners have an important role bringing a kind of infrastructure, stability to a church that's such a minority and in such a perilous state that it has to rely on this kind of universal communion to survive. But the commitment is very, very real, both for those who stay and those from the outside who
commute.
Or who come and stay. But in any case, I mean, the importance, I think, obviously, of the Christians for the non-Christians is very important because it also says something about the real identity of the place. I mean, we're not newcomers there, and we can't pretend that it's kind of an accident that there are Christians there.
Yet, you are a father. When you think about many of the Mediterranean societies in the Middle East, a father is part of a patriarchal structured family. And in many cases, because of the numbers, because of the political environment, because of persecution, you're in a way a very weak father. I mean, your family, the community is a weak community who needs a stronger father to stand for it. And we in the region expect the father to be the figure fighter of the family. So how you now calibrate the very, very heavy responsibility coming with the title father, and your sometimes inability to face the establishment, the political system, the threats.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, you make a good point. I mean, there's a resonance of that language in the region that is stronger, I think, than in the West. I mean, all of my Arab friends, they call me Abuna. I mean, there's something very native. Yeah. So a good example maybe of this is, I mean, so the father of the Latin Christians is the cardinal now, And this act of the Holy Father here in Rome to name the Bishop of Jerusalem a cardinal is a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, Cardinal Giambattista Pizzaballa, the first ever, maybe?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
first, the first recently.
Yeah. I mean, historically, going way back, actually, Caesarea was the more important church than Jerusalem. So it's a big sign of a support, like I say, of the Holy Father. This is a big part of Catholic ecclesiology.
As a Jew, I was so excited. I felt, wow, somebody pays attention to the importance of the Christian input into our mosaic.
Yeah, precisely. So I think that's a good example of how the church from the outside, quote unquote, can somehow bring something, offer something to the church. And there, I mean, Cardinal Pizzaballa, he's an Italian. He's not native, but he's become native. I mean, that's this dimension of the church there. And the symbiosis of the universal church and the particular church is very important, very characteristic, and unique in the church in Jerusalem.
But still, about the frustration of being a father, that his fatherhood is not as needed by the family, by the community.
Well, I mean, by the society in a way. I mean, there's a way in which, I mean, there are some signs of respect. There's a lot of signs of disrespect too, more broadly speaking. But I think the Christians understand the need. I mean, that there's a struggle to provide what the church needs, the Christians need. Yeah, that's obviously a pain. That's a wound that the church and all of us there have to bear.
I'll leave it as is, because I feel I feel the frustration, and I'll leave it there. I mean, with a lot of sympathy and empathy. I want to go a little bit to the more conceptual level. We spoke about practical Jerusalem, streets, corners, sizes. In many cases, the destruction of the second Jewish temple was a kind of a victory to the Christian ideas, because Jesus Christ criticized the corruption of the place. I mean, he had some of the best encounters against the then Jewish establishment over there at the Mount. Are the dreams of so many Jews today to rebuild the temple is the new Christian nightmare?
I mean, depends which Christians you're talking about, and that's part of the problem.
I'll ask you differently. Father Anthony, maybe not. That's some American evangelical interpretation, which love the idea.
Right.
You with your faith.
No, I mean, I think the Catholic view on this is, not just me personally, but the Catholic view on this is different than, I mean, what we would see as a millennialist kind of error. It's certainly, I mean, even apart from the theological evaluation, I mean, just in terms of political prudence, in terms of kind of stoking or poking a hornet's nest, it's a nightmare.
The politics, it's a nightmare for me as a voting Israeli as well, and as an engaged Jew as well. But I ask now about something which is maybe beyond politics. Okay, for many years, Christianity said, and there are so many theological arguments about it, we have the new blessing. The blessing was taken from the old church, the Jewish one, into the new church, right? And the fact that your temple is destroyed and you are so humble and meek and you are the testimony for the victory of the new thing. Now, all of a sudden, is it possible that we, the Jews, are re-blessed? Do we have to share the blessing? What's going on there?
It's
because Israel is a successful story from the point of view of Jewish history.
No, it's a remarkable story. Yeah, it's this moment of the destruction of the temple is so drenched in meaning, in symbolism, and exaggerations. That's really my period, and that's Rome and Jerusalem again. I've worked on this a lot, and one of the things I think is important, actually, there's a certain kind of demythologization of that moment that's just important to undertake. So to a certain extent, I think a lot of things that were actually Roman political policy have been reinterpreted as Christian theology. And I think there's I think
Give me an example.
Like the decision to destroy and keep the temple destroyed. There's a way in which, I mean, the initial Christian response to that is different than we'll get a couple centuries later, when it does start to become this kind of proof, in archaeological proof of the invalidity of Judaism or something. That's not the primitive Christian response, actually. It's not necessary to dwell on that, but here I think I would be, in accord with most historians, that there's a crisis that the Judaism of the first and second century passes through, and the end of, let's call it, biblical Israel, the end of this temple system, gives birth to a new idea of religion. And that's a new idea of religion that forks into the Christian experience and, formative Judaism and in the rabbinical experience as a kind of normative. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was too Israeli. I jumped into your words.
No, it's okay.
Finish the thought.
No, the point. The point is simply that there's an end for everyone that comes with the destruction of the temple. Mm-hmm. The ancient world didn't understand how to come into contact with God without slaughtering animals. There's a major watershed here between that and the experience of religion that both Christians and Jews have today.
I will go with you. Mm-hmm. I will say that up until the destruction of the Second Temple, it was the long tail of biblical era. Mm-hmm. And then two new religions were born out of this era of crisis and international cosmopolitan confusion or perplexion. Mm-hmm. And this is actually rabbinical Judaism and Christianity of early stages that were actually twin sisters rather than mother and daughter. We Jews, we love to say we are the mothers of this. Oh, no. Mm-hmm. This neo-Judaism and Christianity are twin sisters that started together with post-temple rituals, a lot of conscience rather than or the avodah shebalev, the labor of the heart, okay, or the worshiping of the heart, prayers, caring, solidarity,
Gemilut
chasadim, charity and compassion, etc. And therefore, the proximity and the closeness of our two religions is much closer than perceived by the political advertisement of the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And to that extent, the destruction of the temple isn't this "we're right, you're wrong" moment, so much as it's the necessary precondition for both. And that's not to say that there's not, a radical difference in the way that those two sister religions are born from that experience. But that's more how I'd see the significance of the destruction of this form. We obviously there's a particular Christian understanding of this, and again, painting with broad brushstrokes, but there's a way in which there's a universalizing tendency that's the Christian form of religion that's born out of that, and embedded in the rabbinic experiences. Is a strong instinct of conservation. So while the temple isn't there, what do you do on Yom Kippur? You read and study the ritual, you relive it, and so to dwell in that place in a spiritual way, but in a different way is a different instinct. I mean,
So it's the completion of the complementary, particular and universal that live together and created maybe a lot of the or set a lot of the foundation of the Western civilization the way we know it.
Sure.
Now that we passed the last 2024 last years, okay.
Right.
We know that there were partition lines, be it the Paulinian theology, be it the Augustinus one, be it later on. If today you, Father Anthony, have to draw the lines between Judaism and Christianity, assuming, will that be the same municipal lines as 2,000 years ago? Or we have many things which are similar and some others which are completely different?
Yeah, I think boundaries are always moving. I mean, that's what makes these negotiations so thorny all the time. I mean, at its essence, I mean, without being a determinist about it, I mean, there's something definitive that happens in the moment of birth. I mean, when these religions are being born, there's something formative, and I mean, so without talking about the essence of Judaism or the essence of Christianity, I mean, I do think we can identify a kind of classical physiognomy. That said, I mean, it would be silly to ignore things like Nostra Aetate and these other very definitive readjustments in the relationship. So if that's a municipal boundary or whatever that is, I mean, it's...
You know why I love the Nostra Aetate? Every 100 years, the church sits in order to update its policy, right?
Exactly.
I mean, this Nostra Aetate of the 63-64 was the second,
Right.
The second council. Okay.
The church thinks in centuries, we say. And I mean, the creation of the state of Israel, this extraordinary story that you mentioned, I mean, that changes dynamics in a very real way. It's not till 1993 that you have, you know, a formal accord between the Catholic Church and the state of Israel. So, I mean, there's circumstances that have certainly changed, and that changes the relations.
You mentioned the Nostra Aetate, which I wanted to get to it a bit later, so let's visit it now. The Nostra Aetate is very, very interesting. It's really after a very dramatic century, two world wars, and everybody was sitting there, saw the atrocities of both worlds. It's a couple of years after the invention of the pill, the birth of the State of Israel. So many things change in the classic, traditional environment.
Yeah.
And therefore, the church came, especially with the paragraph, clause 4, what is it? The relationship with the Jews, etc., was very, very interesting. Now you live in Jerusalem for how many years?
8 years.
You know us as well as we do know ourselves. Do you think it's possible that one day there will be a Jewish Nostra Aetate towards the Christianity?
Well, I mean, this goes back to the father of the family. I mean, who's the father of the Jewish family? There's a clarity in...
You don't want a political answer, right?
I don't want an answer at all. I don't think there is an answer. That's the point. I mean, this is something the Catholic Church constantly faces, is who's our interlocutor? I mean, if, for instance, what Jews are we speaking to when we want to talk about the state of Israel or something like that? Because there's a huge spectrum of opinions. Who speaks for the Jews, quote unquote? Okay, it's very, very clear.
All of them.
Exactly.
And simultaneously.
Exactly. So you have 9 million dialogues, you know, it's...
14 million?
14 million.
Monologues.
There we are. Monologues.
Yeah, go on.
But I mean, this is very, very different, obviously, in the Catholic experience. You know exactly who your interlocutor is and who speaks for the church, which makes a dialogue possible in a different way.
Father Anthony, I think you beautify a little bit. Okay, at the sense that you know that within the church you have so many streams and so many. Just take, for example, the current Pope and Pope, the former one.
Sure.
Okay, so the difference between more traditional, more progressive, German, Latin American, there are nuances which are.
No, that's a point well taken. Nevertheless, there's an ecclesiology There's an ecclesiology that's clear, even if it gets blurry very, very quickly. The fact that there's a Vatican, the fact that there is a Pope, whoever he is a structure that doesn't exist in, you know, it's not to say by any means that the Pope always speaks for all Catholics or anything like that. And I mean, Catholic theology doesn't pretend or think that. But the point is just back to, could there be a Jewish Nostra Aetate? I mean, there could be a group of Jews. I mean, I have good friends who are very engaged in Jewish-Christian relations and, you know, writing letters and doing these, in fact, writing to the Pope and getting answers and this sort of thing. But who are they speaking for? You know,
are they themselves?
For themselves or the signatories or something like that. But it's a different, I think, I just don't see the mechanism for it.
I understand what you say, but for example, if Pope Ratzinger, no, that was not the name, it was Cardinal Ratzinger at the time, right, say something about abortion for the sake of it. So many American Catholics do not listen, and they speak differently as Catholics, etc., etc. So it's a question of the political mechanism. How do you work with the system in order to listen to other voices? But actually, I ask a question of psychological question rather than a theological question. Do you think that it's possible that one day the Jews in Israel, not in the West, will overcome the phobia of the entire Christian world, want to crucify us? Or I'll take it, a step further. In the eyes of many Israelis, I will never say all because you never have all, the Christian foundation or the Christian seed and the two poisonous fruits that still haunt the Middle East, colonialism and Holocaust, are still very much alive. And therefore the trust is very problematic. You think that a day will come and we, the Jews, will trust you Christians?
It's a question for you. I don't know.
Look at me, not in the room, but look at us. You see us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a good challenge, I suppose one should and must say that Christian civilizations, Christian societies need to show themselves trustworthy before that happens. This is back to, come from a Christian country or something. I mean, what counts, the kind of radical Islamic interpretation of, the Crusades. They speak about the present military operations of the West as crusades, and I think that's, obviously radically to misunderstand a highly secularized society. And so to what extent
today, the West
of today, exactly. And so to what extent, this is also back to the question of supersessionism, what was Roman political policy and what was Christian theology? I mean, do we attribute everything to Christianity that a nominally Christian country does or did? I mean, that's where this question of church teaching is actually very important. It's very, very easy to say, that, okay, the Catholics who don't actually subscribe to church teaching on abortion are not abiding by what the church says. It's not in doubt what the church says and what it teaches. It's a different thing what actual Christians do, but you can't criticize the teaching based on the practice. So I think this comes back to the question of trust. When did church teaching, formal church teaching, ever betray the trust? Okay, that's a different thing than bad Christians. Then you can ask the question, does the religion have the ability to make good Christians? What do you judge Christianity by? Do you judge it by its saints, the success stories or the failures? Do you judge a university, by the people who fail? The way they sell it is the people who succeed. I think these questions of evaluation are going to touch the sensibility of Jewish people about whether we can trust, Christian society, something like that. What is it? What is Christian society? What is Christianity? Do I trust Christianity? in the end, these are abstract. It comes down to, this is the particular. I think the Jewish experience is always on the pole of the particular, and it's going to come down to a lot of these kinds of to the 14 million monologues.
Yeah, the problem with particularism is the whataboutism. Okay, you have 99% of the Catholics are A, but one individual does the opposite. But what about him?
Right.
Okay, so leave this, for example. I'll tell you, I listened very carefully to what you say, and it's a food for thought for me for after, because I believe that the Jewish learning or studying system is a bit different at one sense. The teaching should never get too far away from the capability of the one or the community to perform. Okay, you never sanction something on the public if the public cannot meet the challenge. So it's a bit different than an abstract goodness that you're talking here. So I have to think a little bit about it, but I'll say as follows. Answering my own question about the Jewish Nostra Aetate and reestablish trust, I would say there is one thing that for me, for many, many years, is a source of optimism. When I look at Judaism versus Islam and Judaism versus Christianity, with Islam, what do we have in common is the oneness of the God. We don't have the dilemma of Trinity, which challenges the dogma, the paradigm. But on the other hand, with Christianity, we have a shared book, the Old Testament. So, okay, I can fight with you day in and day out about the interpretation and the meaning of the next, of series 2. Okay, but I don't have this shared text with the Muslims. So, in between the two, I have a feeling that it is possible to have a learned shared process of learning together, redefining borders together, and then I have a shared Nostra Aetate.
Yeah, I'm happy actually to hear that and to share that. I mean, both Christian experience and Jewish experience can't be reduced to Western experience, but there's also a lot of convergence and a lot of synergy between the Jewish community and the Christian community in building a culture. And I think
in the West, but not in the Holy Land.
There it's a different challenge. But even back in the Holy Land, there's a huge number. I don't know if it's a majority or not, but there's a major presence of Western culture and Western values. I mean, Israel as a state has strives to embed these Western values. I mean, so there's a shared cultural patrimony that is massive common ground for trust. And understanding. I mean, so we don't always have to jump immediately to scriptural exegesis. There's also, traditions of music, traditions of art and literature, and all these sorts of things that we understand and respect and treasure together. And those are human contacts. And I think
that's
those
fantastic. Your dialectic process is amazing. You say not everything which is Western is Christian. But Westernism might be the common denominator to build a bridge between this Israel, Jewish Israel, and that Catholic element in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the common denominator, precisely, and all the more in the context. I mean, of this nation state. I mean, the very idea of a nation state. It's Westphalia. I mean, we can say that colonialism is the problem, and I mean, there's lots and lots of problems of colonialism, but it's an ambiguous phenomenon because it imports an entire civilizational paradigm. And we live within that, whether we like it or not. And to that extent, I mean, it's the ambiance of trust.
We started with a person, and I said, Father Anthony, tell me about yourself, and we went to the open Ferraris of the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
I once tried to run in a very winterish day the Golden Mile of Chicago.
Never again.
Never again. Now talk to me narrow narrow your field, of the depth of field. Talk to me about your corner of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Where is Father Anthony Jerusalem corner?
Yeah, it's beautiful because it's small. It's neighborhoods like this. I mean, I live on Nablus Road. I live in view of Damascus Gate, which is the most troubled spot in the city.
Traffic is awful. I mean, no separation between the pavement and the road. I mean, every commercial exchange happens on both.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
Yeah.
Observant.
Yeah, it's all there. But the falafel is great.
Falafel is good, hummus is good, and everybody is actually molded through the gate into the city. Christians, Muslims, religious, Jews, tourists. So you live there.
And I mean, and it's a theater, the way it's descends, and I mean, it's a kind of amphitheater, just watching Jerusalem. I mean, there's something magnificent about it for that reason, just the way that it's kind of the mise en scène of the drama of Jerusalem for me. And you think too of just what those walls have seen. Damascus Gate is dear to me because it's my neighborhood. I see it the moment I step out my door. But if there's one place where I go to forget Damascus Gate or to get a different perspective, it's Gethsemane. And I can't tell you what a privilege it is.
The church or the whole valley there?
The church very specifically, and actually next to it,
very universal one, all nations.
The Church of all nations, which is it always moved me. I mean, up in this beautiful mosaic. I mean, it's the starry sky, but you have all the nations, including the Americans, are up there. There's something about that that even to be under the heavens like that, and it's the promise to Abraham. Okay, look and count the stars, and it's all the families of nations. And this is also that particular place where Jesus prayed. And I mean, to that extent, to go there to pray in that spot is just a kind of communion with. This is the place not where Jesus went to pray to seek communion with his Father, but it's also a place where he's brought to that limit case of his own humanity. I mean, he's sweating blood on the brink of his cruel and unjust murder. So, when you're brought to these moments, whatever the moments they are, they can be beautiful moments too. But for me, it's a wonderful place of prayer. And since COVID, it's also been very quiet.
I love the Mount of Olives when you stand at the top of it, which is the hill above the Gethsemane. Gethsemane. And I see Christians standing there, and they know this is how Jesus came from the Jordan Valley, climbed up from Jericho Road, walked down to the city towards his, meeting his fate. And I look down and I say, wow, my grandfather is buried here. And I'm sad about him. And it's apropos humanity, the human dimension of the city. And when I listen very carefully to our conversation, I say to myself, there is no Gethsemane in Rome. There is no Damascus gate in Rome. But maybe Father Anthony and Avrum can meet in Rome only in order to talk about these places.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Father Anthony.
Jerusalem Talks ND is brought to you by the Academic Center of the University of Notre Dame in Jerusalem. For more information, visit us at jerusalem.nd.edu.